Welcome to another episode of the Girl About the Globe podcast. In this episode, I'm joined by Melanie Pike, a fellow solo traveller who fell in love with Thailand and wrote a book all about it called Doing Life Differently in Thailand. If you've ever wanted to travel to Thailand, more specifically to travel to Phuket in Thailand, this podcast episode is for you. Stay tuned. Welcome to Girl About the Globe, a podcast for you as a solo female traveller, empowering women to travel solo with maximum adventure, minimum impact. Welcome to another episode of the Girl About the Globe podcast. Today I'm joined by Melanie Pike, a fellow solo traveller who fell in love with Thailand and wrote a book all about it called Doing Life Differently in Thailand. Welcome, Mel. Thanks for joining me today.
Hello, Lisa. It's lovely to be with you. Thank you for having me.
And you're coming all the way from Tasmania.
I am. I'm in Hobart in Tasmania in Australia, and it's freezing.
Honestly, I love your accent though. Your accent is so great. So before we dive into Thailand, tell us a bit more about you and where did your love of traveling first begin?
Well, I grew up not in Tasmania. I grew up in New South Wales, in country New South Wales. And I was really lucky, I think, because my parents took me overseas a couple of times when I was young. So we went to the US, we did one of those Pacific cruises, we went to Fiji. So I sort of got a little bit of a taste of travel and what travel was all about. But it really was, I would have to say, I finished high school, didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I applied to be an exchange student. And I actually applied to go to Japan.
Wow.
And they had nothing available in Japan, and they offered me Thailand. Now, this is back in 1989, 90, and I knew absolutely nothing about Thailand. There was a Thai restaurant in my little town, which was unbelievable, really, because we really just had a Chinese and an Italian, and a Thai just opened up. So before I left, I went there and started to eat a few curries and sort of try and understand what this country was that I was going to go to, but really it didn't prepare me. But so that's really, I think, where my love of travel came from.
That's so interesting that you went to Thailand back then and that you ended up back there because you're now in your 50s, is that right?
I'm 53, and so I went there as a 17-year-old.
Wow.
So it is amazing, really, that I have continued the link the whole time, on and off. I've gone to a lot of other countries, but I've always found I've made my way back to Thailand as often as I could. I went and studied there. I did a bit of university, and then I went and worked there for a very short amount of time at an insurance company, just speaking Thai for them. And I've just kind of come and gone, but I cannot get it out of my blood. It's just part of who I am.
Why Thailand? What is it about Thailand?
I think the connection for me is really based around the people, I would have to say, and the way they live their lives. And it really does revolve around respect, and the respect that they have for you, and for you to enjoy their country. I have been so warmly welcomed by Thai people. It's just incredible, to be honest, how wonderful they are to me, and the respect and the love that they show towards me. It actually blows me away. And do you know, the other thing, I think it's because I'm curious about the place. I love it. I ask lots of questions and I speak the language. So the language, I think you would know anywhere you travel. If you can speak to the locals, you just form different relationships, and relationships on a different level. And they never expect you to be Thai, but they really love it when you've made an effort to speak their language. And it's quite funny. There's a little saying a lot of my Thai friends have, or Thai people that sometimes get to know me, they say I'm 80% Thai and 20% Australian. They think I was born in the wrong country.
That's amazing that you can speak Thai. I only know a couple of words, which is Sawatika and Kapkunka. But even when you
That's
say that
enough.
to Thai people, their face lights up. So like you say, just trying to speak the language and just saying hello and please and thank you. How long did it
It
take you?
makes a big difference.
Yeah, how long did it take you to learn Thai? Just out of
Oh,
interest.
look, I'm still learning it. I will always be a student of that language. I mean, you would have seen the Thai script, so
Mm.
it's really tricky because it's not, it's you can't. You have to learn to actually read the Thai script to get the language right. It's a tonal language, so there's 5 tones. And for us speaking English, that's quite a weird concept because we're not used to the sort of tones that they use. And the tricky thing with the language is one word can actually have 5 different meanings depending on the tone that you've used. So foreigners fall into the trap sometimes of getting themselves a bit mixed up with things because they think they're saying one thing and actually they're saying something else to the Thai ear. So yeah, it's tricky, but I learn all the time. I constantly learning and just trying to piece things together. And it's good fun, but it's not an easy language.
It sounds similar to Chinese. Not that I know any Chinese, but I know that if you it can one word can be said in 5 different tones and they all have different meanings. So it makes it even
Yeah,
challenging, doesn't it? But rewarding, I
yeah.
guess, when you can, like you say, when you can speak to the locals and you can have a deeper level of understanding with them when you speak their language.
It's so true, Lisa. You really can. And they tend to give you more, I suppose. They give more because they can tell that you are interested about them and about their culture, and you've taken the time to learn about their country. And I think you get that wherever you go, Thailand, Australia, when you can see people have really bonded with your country or have a deep interest in it. You want to, it just encourages you to want to share. And that's what I found with the Thais. They love sharing their traditions, their customs, why they do things the way they do it, and then to be able to ask them why they do things in particular ways. You're just getting to a deeper and deeper level all the time, understanding the way they operate.
It's lovely. And it's not called the land of smiles for no reason at all, is it?
That's so true.
And they're so
That's so
friendly.
true. They're so friendly. They're such lovely, they have such a lovely nature. They're just kind and generous, and so hospitable.
That's so important in today's world, isn't it? I think.
I
So
really think it is too.
it's in your 50s that you decided that you needed to do life differently, which is part of the title of your book. What led you up to that point to make you want to change things?
I think speaking to a lot of my girlfriends who are also in their 50s, a lot of us find ourselves in situations where we've got this far and we've probably been carrying a bit of a heavy load for all sorts of different reasons, whether it's the giving of yourself and not taking time for yourself. And women are very guilty of giving to others and not really taking for themselves. And it was probably a culmination of a number of things and sort of cumulative over the years. But I had been supporting my husband through PTSD and major depression. He returned from Iraq and Afghanistan from the war over there in 2008. And unfortunately, that's what the war scars were for him. And so, anyone who supports somebody through mental illness and a protracted and very long mental illness will know how tiring and draining and helpless you feel in watching someone you love go through such a terrible trauma. So that had been rolling around in our lives for quite a while. Um, I also think COVID had an impact on me wanting to do life differently, which I think a lot of people relate to these days. It just focused me on, if I can't do stuff, then what do I really want to do when I can get out and do it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think COVID had a bit of an impact. And I had a big chunk of long service leave, and I thought, what am I going to do with this and how am I going to make this really count? And so, all of that coming together, I thought I'm really ready to do something different, and I want to do life differently, and I want to mix it up, and I want to have no responsibilities for a while, and I don't want anyone asking me what's for dinner, and I just want to go away and be me.
Yeah. I love that. I'm sorry about what's happened to your husband as well. How is he now?
Oh, thank you, Lisa. You know, it's up and down, to be honest. He is way, way better than what he was. Um, he's got a wonderful medical team around him. But again, mental illness is really tricky, and it's really hard for those that surround those suffering to not take a lot of that on as well.
Yeah.
And when you live with somebody who's going through that, I call it the ripple effect. It really does ripple out, and you can soon lose who you are. And that's no criticism of the person who's unwell. It's just the nature of what happens.
So it sounds like this trip was really needed for you on a lot of different levels.
Yeah, it was. I think it was. But, I don't actually think I thought it through that way before I left. I just thought I've got this great opportunity to have. I was only going to go for 3 months, and it ended up being 5. So I thought I'll just go for 3 months. Thailand is what I call my happy place. I've always felt that way. And I thought I'm just going to live really simply and just see how I go. And I kind of didn't put any expectations on the trip or how I'd be. And so it was a bit of a surprise to me what actually unfolded and how things actually panned out for me. And you can read that in my book as time goes on. You can I felt the layers kind of starting to peel away and unravel a little bit. So I didn't go away to find myself, but it's funny how when we travel, what happens. And even though we're not expecting certain things to happen, different environments, feeling a different way, doing life differently tends to do that to us.
Yeah. I think that's the best way to do it, though, is to go away with no expectations. And then I always think, especially with solo travel, it gives you that, it gives you whatever you need at that stage in your life. And you've got no control over what it's going to throw at you or the lesson that you're going to have. You just need to be open to it and go with it.
Oh, I really agree with you. I came away from my 5 months over there and thought traveling with an open heart and an open mind is really all you need. Take your passport, of course, and your credit card. But, apart from that, if that's how you approach your travel and that's how don't overcomplicate things, I think you'll do fine. It's because a few people sort of say, what would I need to do it? And I said, well, and I say to them, well, not a lot. Like, don't overthink it. Don't sort of frighten yourself, particularly if you want to try solo traveling and it's not something that you've done before, or it's something that you feel a bit anxious around. Just keep it really simple and just take action, i.e., book your fare, buy the caravan, make the plan. do something about it. And before you know it, you're on that plane, you're on the beach, you're where you kind of never thought you'd be, and it's all happening.
It's like you step into a different reality, isn't it? And a different version of you, I think, can emerge from that, especially over five
Yeah.
months. Did it feel like you were gone for 5 months?
Oh, I could have gone for longer. I really loved it. Again, people will read in my book. I could not bring myself to think about coming home, and I couldn't actually tell myself I was coming home until about 2 days before I got on the plane to come home. I just was in denial that I was coming back. And it wasn't anything to do with my home life. And I have a beautiful, loving husband and two gorgeous Labradors who I was dying to see. But I just had such a wonderful time and was enjoying myself and enjoying my solo self so much, that I didn't want it to end. But 5 months was great. I did have to get back to work, unfortunately.
Mm. And your book is about one woman ditching the daily grind, living solo, and making memories. Tell us more about the book.
Okay, so the book is really a travel memoir, is how I would describe it. And it's really my diary of what it was like over those 5 months. And I am very much a surprise author. I never in my wildest dreams thought I would write a book ever. But how it all came about was I love Instagram. I've been on Instagram for about 12 years now, and I just love to have my memories kept as photos. And so every day I would take photos of different things that happened during the day, and then I just write a little bit about it in the evening. And it was really so I could remember, because I'm in my 50s and I've got a foggy menopausal brain and I would not be able to remember. I know I wouldn't. I couldn't trust myself. So it was just my little record of things. Anyway, I've got this tiny little group of, like 90 people or something that follow me on Instagram, mainly friends and family. And they started to really get involved in it, and they look forward to it every day, and they loved it, and they were traveling vicariously through me. And then I got home, and my husband had actually um, taken all the words that I had written, and he told me I'd written 40,000 words.
Just on your
I was
Instagram.
like, really? Yeah, over that length of time, it
Wow.
was 40,000 words, which is a bit crazy. Anyway, I had this great big ream of paper because he'd printed it all out for me, and it had a big bulldog clip on it. And I thought, that's great. We'll just bind it up and, it's there so I remember. And then I had a few people say to me, oh, you should write a book, it'd be so great. And I thought, really, should I? And then before I knew it, I was Googling how to write a book. And naively, I thought, well, I've got 40,000 words to start with. What more do I need? I
Yeah.
needed a lot more.
How many words is your final book?
I think it's about 100,000.
Okay, that's a lot more you added to it.
Yeah, but exactly. But what I added into it was, um, I wanted to impart my knowledge of Thailand to people so that they could not only read about my experiences, but read about living in Thailand and what the Thais do and how they live their lives and what food I love and why they do things a certain way, and I've put the language into it. And then I've gone back to my diaries that I kept as an 18-year-old, and I've extracted stuff out of that, and I've added that into
Mm.
the book to kind of go, well, this was 18-year-old me, now here's 53-year-old me. This is what's happening. And it was so interesting to see what I was saying, as a young person to what I was saying now in my 50s. So I've woven all that through the book as well to give it a little bit more interest. And then you've got all these stories that just kind of came my way and the people that I met. Um, And particularly the Thai people that I met, you get to know a lot about their daily lives and who they are and what they're all about. So it's got a bit of everything in it, really.
So tell us where you were based in Thailand.
So I was in Phuket and I was actually at Qatar Beach, which is about an hour from the airport if people know Phuket. And it's just, one of the lovely beaches there. I was in the back streets. I just wanted to live kind of like a Thai. So I lived, a couple of streets away from the beach. And I also wanted to be able to, go to the markets. I didn't cook. I just bought from the markets or ate locally. So I stuck to my not having to cook. No one asked me what's for dinner. Or I stuck to that for 5 months, which was
Right.
very easy to do because you go to Asia, it's so easy to eat out. You're not gonna cook or anything. So that's where I was. I was at Cutter Beach.
And even the street food is amazing out there, isn't it? It's fresh, it's cheap.
So true. It's just why would you cook when it can be done so quickly? And I had a bit of a novelty going on. There's a food delivery app over there. Where I live in Tassie, we don't have a lot of fantastic takeaway food, and it's a bit hard to get it delivered. But anyway, while I was there was this app, Food Panda, and I became slightly addicted to it because I would order from the local restaurants. They were all on it. And I swear by the time I had ordered, got out of the pool, gone to walk to the front of where I was staying, my food was there. And I couldn't believe it. Like it was 10 to 15 minutes. I decided what I wanted, ordered, and the food was there. It just hooked me in.
Yeah, it's like a novelty, isn't it?
It's like my dream.
What do you think is Thailand's appeal to women? Because I've got a few stories, not my stories, but stories of other solo travelers on the blog about finding themselves in Thailand. And a lot of women are drawn to Thailand. I mean, obviously, it's good for the cultural solo, the party solo, nature. I'd say it's actually got everything that you need. But what would you say is its appeal for women traveling alone?
I think you're right about women particularly going over there and potentially, I feel like I reset when I go there. I just think when you see the way the Thai people live and the simplicity with
Mm,
which a lot of them live, you can't help but also almost pare back your own life while you're there. You can live very simply. And I think by doing that and creating space, whether that's space in your head mentally, just space around you, being solo, and just being with yourself for a while, which a lot of people never have the opportunity to do in everyday life, whether it's children or partners or friends or family or colleagues, you're always sort of kind of surrounded. But you go over there as a solo traveler, and um, I think you really can find that space for yourself and find, maybe a beautiful beach if nature is what you like. And some of them are also attracted to Buddhism, and Buddhism's the major religion over there. And you can easily find yourself taking an interest in that, and the Thais will share that with you. They'll never push it on you, but if that's something that you're drawn to, you can easily pursue that while you're over there. But yeah, I think a lot of people do head off kind of to Southeast Asia and have a bit of the image that they are going to come back having discovered who they are or rediscover who they are.
mm. And I think it makes you really humble when you see people living like that and they're happy with what they've got, and family plays quite an important role as well, doesn't it? To ties from what I've
Oh, yeah.
received. And
Yeah.
it makes
I am just, yeah, constantly humbled by them, Lisa. I really am constantly humbled by how little they have, yet they will give you everything that they do have. And they live with so little, and yet, like you say, they don't necessarily want for a lot more. They just kind of accept, and that's very much a Buddhist
mm,
trait, is a level of acceptance of what has been given to you in life or where you are at in life. It doesn't mean you don't strive for more, but I think sometimes our Western ways of wanting bigger, better, more,
yeah.
faster can bring us unstuck. And often I go there and just see how simply they are living, and really do feel very humbled by it.
And like you said before, it resets you, doesn't it? I think it would reset your value system. And because I'm in Dubai at the moment, which is kind of a utopia of consumerism and getting stuff delivered within 20 minutes. And it's such a bubble that then you feel as though you need to take yourself out of that environment and actually go and be somewhere really real and remember what life is all about outside of everything else that
Yeah, I
I'm
think we get swept up in the consumerism of
yeah,
life. We get swept up in uh, career, working, and that is my ditching the daily grind is very much focused on that. And that can become a grind for a lot of people, just constantly chasing, whether it's chasing the next promotion or, chasing the next designer handbag, or, anything like that. I think it can become very wearing. And to dip out of that cycle and to not do that and actually find you're okay and really you like it and you love it, there's something really refreshing about it. And you do then, I think, look at your life and think, God, I actually don't need all this or need all that stuff. Or I've just, I've lived very simply and I've been really quite happy with the way I've been living, and sort of unclutters you.
yeah, yeah, which is a necessity, especially in today's modern, fast-paced world, isn't it? And
Yeah, definitely.
it's very easy to meet people there, isn't it? Did you meet a lot of other women by themselves there, as well as obviously the locals?
I did. I met a lot of people. I met a lot of really interesting people. Um, and I met some funny blokes as well, because what you'll find, which a lot of people will find, there's a lot of men over there who are searching for something. This could well be their, new beginning, or they're running from life, or all sorts of scenarios. And I did meet a couple of interesting blokes who were doing that. And it was very sobering for me to speak with them and then be actually quite horrified that I was over there on my own. And so I was able to set them straight very, very quickly about it not being 1980 and that us women are out traveling on our own.
Good.
And they had forgotten that actually they were on their own and that was okay. So it was quite interesting to have those conversations. And I'm not saying there were a whole heap of them, but there were a few. And it's nice to be able to say, well, we're here, we're doing this, we love it, um, and it's okay for us to do this.
Good. I'm glad you were having those conversations.
Mm.
What did you used to do in the evenings?
Oh, well, the sun goes down maybe around 7 most nights. So it's lovely and balmy, and I would walk along the beach at night. I would swim until really late, like until after the sun had set. I loved it because like the heat of the day had gone. I would walk around where I live because there were night markets. I'd go out and find myself something to eat at night. Um, I would swim in the pool that was close, that was at the front of where I lived. I actually would also go and listen to some live music. There was live music. There was a tiny little bar that was at the front of where I stayed, and it seated about 10 people. And some nights I would just go and sit there and have a margarita and just watch the passing parade. And the barmaid, I became friends with her. We'd had lovely conversations together. And then people would turn up, and before you're talking to 3 or 4 travelers, and people are coming and going. And so there's heaps and heaps to do. The shops are open until 10 o'clock at night. Sometimes take myself off there. You could go to the movies if you wanted to. Sometimes I'd just go back to my room and read. I never watched the telly the whole time I was there. I never sat and watched the TV, although there's a lot of English programs you could have watched. But in saying that, the election was on when I was there, and I tuned in that night because I just wanted to see how things were going to play out. But apart from that, I never bothered.
What are your favourite things to do there? You just mentioned about swimming and at
Mm.
night time, and it sounds like you just listed all of your favourite things to do. But are there anything else that,
Well, there's plenty. But when I first arrive in Thailand, I always go and have a massage and a manicure and a pedicure.
what
And
about
that's my big, yeah, I just, you can go and do that at night time. They're all open until 11 o'clock. And, you can easily go and spend some time just having some pampering. And I always feel like I'm in Thailand once I've done that. And so that sort of sets me off. And I absolutely love the water. I love going snorkeling around the various islands out there. That's lovely to do that. There's an area off or just north of Phuket called Phang Nga Bay, and it's got the beautiful big limestone cliffs and formations that jut out of the water. And one of my favourite things to do is go kayaking through them, and you go into some caves, and they're absolutely beautiful. You get guided. You don't have to do the kayaking or know where you're going, and the scenery is just absolutely stunning. The crystal clear water, sugary white sand beaches, and it's just a really, really beautiful place. But there's stacks and stacks of stuff. I also love going to see the elephants. I love the elephants, and you'll see that on the front of my book. And there's a
your book
beautiful
cover?
sanctuary.
Sorry, your book cover is beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I love it too. I must tell you the funny story around the book cover is I found this lady. Her name is Hazel Lamb, and she's in Australia. And I just found her on this website called Readsy, which is a website for people who are self-publishing. And so you can dip in and out and find an editor and a book cover designer. And so it was just fluky that I found her. And I sent her my favourite photos from my 5 months away. And so that included an elephant and the lotus flower and temples and everything that you see on the cover. And then I said to her, it must have hot pink on it because that's my just beautiful, absolute happy color. And she came back with this design, and she gave me 8 other designs. And this was the first one I looked at, and I went, that's it. That's my design. The only thing I changed was I said, could you put a few little palm trees on there because I loved the beach. I was like, I just want to represent the beach part of what I did while I was over here. And so she snuck in a few little palm trees for me. But apart from that, she absolutely nailed it. And
Yeah, it's beautiful.
beautiful.
Elephants, temples, and you're wearing hot pink now.
Yeah. It's a bit of a theme. It's a bit of a
Are there any
theme.
hidden gems in Thailand? And you just listed off quite a lot of
Yeah,
places to see because Phuket in itself is, I think it's the biggest island, isn't it? It's huge.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And a lot of people, and including myself, have an image of Phuket as just being all about the girly bars, the nightclubs, being super frantic and busy, maybe not being authentic, I suppose, and being quite crowded. But I actually found the opposite when I was there. Um, I think Phuket is fascinating. There is a incredible old town there that you can go and have a look through. Beautiful old architecture. It is incredible just to walk through there and hear the story of Phuket and how Phuket came to be. So that I think is very much a hidden gem. The food that you can eat in Phuket is so vast, not just the Thai food, if you want a little bit more than Thai food, but they just cover everything there in Phuket, and they really do their food very, very well. The other thing that I love to do is I love to go to a fresh market, a fresh food market, because I think you get to see how the Thais live. You get to see what they eat on a daily basis. There's something about a fresh food market when you're immersed in it, and particularly an Asian fresh food market, the variety of food that you get to see, um, and just the way life operates for them, and particularly a morning market because the Thais, their markets start about 3 o'clock in the morning. Um, and people that own restaurants and that rely on food, for their business, you'll often find them getting in early, getting the bargains, getting all the fresh food. It's a treasure trove. I just love walking through the markets and having a look at, and there's some very odd things as well, but I love doing that. And the other thing that people may not know a lot about, but I would highly, highly recommend is getting up early, maybe around 5:30, 6 o'clock, and going out, heading out to the streets around you and actually watching the monks gather their food for the day. And the Thais call this tak bat, and that means the giving of food or giving of alms, basically. And lay Thai people, as part of their giving with their religion, they feed the monks every day. Monks do not cook any of their own food. It's all given to them by lay Buddhists. And so you can watch the monks go around in their robes with no shoes on, the simplicity of the way they live their lives, receiving food from Thai people who then receive a blessing. And you can do this as well. You can be part of it. And I always make sure that I go out and do that a couple of times while I'm there. And I think it's a lovely insight into Thailand and something that people may not ordinarily get to see.
I love that. I love Buddhism
Mm.
as well. I remember when I went to Thailand, which was when I was 25, I think, and just sitting in a temple there for the first time and just being like overcome with just this emotion. And I love
Mm.
Buddhism, and I love the fact that you can really absorb it in Thailand and really go. It's a country where you can really go inwards, I think. And if you do want to find yourself, like we were saying earlier, it's a
Yeah,
country to do that.
such a great place to do that. And like you say, you can walk into any temple. There was a temple near me. It doesn't have to be, and hopefully it's not an overly touristy one, just a local temple because they're everywhere, and they're not locked. You can walk into the temple grounds at any time and just sit within the temple grounds, sit in front of those beautiful, beautiful, exquisite temples. The Thais love colour, they love gold, and they love colour, and you will see that on their temples. They are just absolutely stunning temples. And you can just spend time there, and no questions asked if you just want to do that. It's open for everyone, and like you say, I think it's a religion where you really can go inward, and it's all about how you interpret it. The Thais will not ever uh, push it on you or insist anything from you. It's one of those lovely things that it's really how much you want to absorb from it. It's totally up to you. And I know a lot of people love to meditate these days, of course.
Mm.
You can do that. There's a lot of lovely benefits from it.
I love that. And the fact that you first went there when you were 17 and up to today, you must have seen quite a few changes in Thailand. I know when I went when I was 25, I was there for a month before I flew on to Australia, and I was there for a year. And then I dipped back into Thailand on the way home. Within that year, I'd already seen some changes. I'd seen the areas becoming more touristy, more 7-Elevens popping up, more little tour companies popping up. And that was, I don't know whether that was just the fact it was a growth spurt within that time that I was there. But I mean, that was a long time ago. If I go back now, I'm obviously going to see a lot of changes. So, are there any changes that you've seen? And also, the second part of that would be how can we give back to the local community when we do visit there?
Well, like you, Lisa, yeah, I have seen a lot of changes. Thankfully, I still believe the Thais are very much holding on to who they are and what they're all about, and this deep, deep tradition that they have, and their culture is still embedded. I think, though, if I don't spend any time in Bangkok, when I go, I'm always out. I think you will find it very westernized, and you will find the younger generation have really maybe not absorbed the culture as much as what their parents would like them to. But down south, you will still definitely see a lot of traditional Thai way of life, and you can certainly seek it out. But it has gone from when I went over there, it was called a third world country when I first went there. It's now called a developing country, and they have gone ahead in leaps and bounds. There's definitely their education has changed. There's that level of consumerism that, they're exposed to everything we are on the internet. They see the Western world, and a lot of them want the Western things, and it always amuses me that I watch the Thais, and sometimes what they're striving for is what we go there to get rid of.
Yeah.
And it's this really weird, you're never kind of happy with what you've got, and you don't realise. So, I go there and never eat KFC or Macca's or anything like that. I'm not interested. But it's actually a bit of a status thing that you can afford McDonald's or KFC, and the kids really want to eat it. I'm like, why would you when you've got all this beautiful food? But I do understand it. They have outside influences that they are watching, and they think, that's the way that they want to live. But it is changing. It has changed. I think everywhere in this world these days feels like things are really changing. And the other major change that I saw this time round, which probably won't surprise a lot of people, is there has been an influx of people from Russia going to live in Thailand. It's cheap. The government have made it very easy for them to be able to go over there. And with that, the war going on there, many of them have fled and are making life for themselves there, and that has both good and bad implications, I suppose. And I just hope people that are going there are trying to respect the Thai way of life and the country that they're living in. And whether that's learning some of the language or adopting some of their customs or eating their food or being respectful of the locals and the way they need to make their living, and maybe helping them, maybe imparting some of their skills, maybe imparting some of the things that they have that they could share with the Thais to, further assist their lives. I think that's always paramount when you go and live in somebody else's country, and not just take all the time. Give back a little bit, and everyone benefits when you do that.
How can we give back when we visit Thailand?
I actually think being curious, asking questions, the obvious things, the practical things are you can actually go and volunteer. You can go and find orphanages that you can volunteer. You can volunteer your English language skills at schools. You can work with elephants and go and help out there. But I actually think the main thing is giving of yourself and just giving your time to the Thais. They all want to say hello to you. You can't walk past them without them saying hello. And they want to interact with you. And it's not just because they want to sell you something. I know it can feel like that when all you hear is Madame massage, or of course, they need to make a living. But they also want to say hello to you. And so I say interact and say hello to them and ask them questions and be curious about their life, and open yourself up a little bit to finding out a little bit more about them and the way they live. And so I think that's probably the best way to give back to them.
That's great advice. And also, if you want to get around in Thailand, is it quite easy to be able to use the local transport and to give back to the locals by using the local taxis or the tuk-tuks or the motorcycle drivers? I'm presuming they've still got them. So maybe try
Yeah,
and
they do.
look for local services like that, maybe.
Absolutely. I think the more that you can use the locals, the absolute best, the better it is for everyone. It is easy to get around. The tuk-tuks are still there. They're a bit cheeky these days, the tuk-tuks. Uh, they've all banded together, I think, and sometimes they jack up the prices. But having said that, when you think about them maybe charging more, they might just be charging you $2 more, like they're not charging you $50 more. And sometimes people get really carried away with trying to beat them down and get the very best price and not wanting to feel like they've been ripped off. And I totally understand that. But I think you also need to keep in mind that they are just trying to make a living. And often what you're haggling over could be $2 or $3, but it actually could be feeding their family for them. It could actually be, a day's food for them. But the tuk-tuks are great. They're there. The motorcycle taxis are there to use. The local buses are great. They were like 40 baht to go into town, and that for us is like $1. And you just, you sit in those open air buses and you get to see so many great sights as you tick along. They're the blue buses, they're called the blue buses there, and you can't miss them. They're all over the island and such a fun way to go. They take probably 3 or 4 times the time it would take in just a normal taxi, but it's a lovely scenic way to go and to kind of get out and see the place as well. But yeah, it's no problem. I walked just about everywhere that I could. And when I couldn't, because I did go to a language school, I was there for these 5 months. That was my focus, was to go to a language school twice a week.
Right.
It wasn't within walking distance. But what I found was this lovely, lovely local driver, and I engaged him to take me to school each time I went. And I joke in the book about, I think I've paid for his kids' school fees for about 3 years with the fares that I ended up paying him
Oh, I
very
love
gladly, because he was
that.
wonderful and he never let me down. But he was fabulous. And my Thai teacher referred to him as my bodyguard because he was always on time. He was always there. He opened the door for me, and he's become an absolutely delightful, beautiful friend of mine. So,
Oh,
if you're there for a long time, make friends with one of them.
yeah, I love that. What would you say to someone who wants to go to Thailand for the first time alone and is unsure about whether they should go or not?
Well, of course, I would say absolutely go. Without a doubt, don't even hesitate. But do your research. You can, you don't have to, if you're not into the beach, there's beautiful mountains up in the north of Thailand. Then you've got the northeast, and that's much more of a rural community, and you can go over there. You can come down south and do your beaches and islands. So there's quite a range of things that you can do. There's lots of information out there about it. You can, lots of Facebook groups sharing information, but don't overload yourself with too much. I would say definitely book that flight and go, and just keep an open mind and an open heart, and you will find that they will embrace you, and they're always curious to see women on their own. Particularly Thai women are curious to see you as well, because it's not, they think you're quite, again, they think you're quite brave. They think, wow, how do you travel alone? Because the Thai women that I befriended would never travel alone. They were fearful of traveling alone. They couldn't contemplate it because one, they're very much the center of the family. The females run the families, and the males tend to just fall into line. And if they had left their family, then who would do that? They wouldn't contemplate doing that. And a lot of them work day to day just to survive. So this concept of taking time for yourself doesn't even enter their mind. They are too busy just running their families, keeping their head above water, generating a bit of income, and a lot of them just surviving. So please go to Thailand is what I would say. Yeah, really, please go and just immerse yourself in it and have a wonderful time.
How would you describe Thailand in 3 words?
I would describe Thailand as warm. Now, warm both in temperature, particularly south, but warm in personality and in hospitality and in the friendliness of the people. They're warm and they're inviting, and they're just an absolute delight. And I would describe it as delicious. The food
Yeah.
is just sensational. I mean, I absolutely love the food, the amount of variety, the flavors. It's not all chili. Um, it's just fantastic, the Thai food. And thirdly, I would probably describe it as, I find it very enchanting and very um, exotically enchanting in terms of it's a fascinating culture. It's so different to what I'm used to living in Australia. And I still keep learning things, even 30 plus years on. I still learn so many things about Thai culture and the way they do things. And so I find that really, really fascinating.
So warm, delicious, and enchanting.
Yeah.
Great words. And your book, where can people go to find out about your amazing book? And who would you also say that your book is for?
So I think my book's for people just like me, to be honest. women 50 plus, either traveling solo already or wanting to take that leap of faith to travel solo. I hope maybe reading it gives them a little taste of what's possible and that they can do it, and it might inspire them or empower them to just go and see how they go with it. So I think, and people that just love a good travel story, that you like to live a bit vicariously through what somebody else has done and shared. And my book is very real. It's very raw. It's supposed to be that way. I'm very vulnerable. I share all my bits and pieces in there. And I did that deliberately because I truly believe that when women share their stories, that almost allows other women to feel vulnerable and share their own stories. And it sort of opens it up for this lovely conversation to happen. And I really think that's our superpower these days, the sharing of information and that really lovely camaraderie that we have in supporting each other. If you've never traveled solo before, people want to help you, and they want you to have this experience. And so I think that's truly a wonderful thing. Whether it's this age, I'm sure younger generations do it, but I find in this sort of 50 plus bracket, we do it really well. And it's something that I also love doing for my fellow 50 pluses as well. And where to find my book? Well, I've created a little website, and my website is doinglifedifferently.com.au. So don't forget the little AU at the end, with me being in Australia. And I would love you to come and say hello. And it's going to be, it's all just new because the book's releasing on the 25th of July, which is not far away. And I will be sharing on there. I'm blogging on there as well. So I want to talk more about Thailand and my experiences. And I want to chat with other women that are keen to go to Thailand. I've got lots of questions and I'm really, really happy to answer them and help them out with that as well. I just wanted to be a nice, cozy, friendly community of women that want to share some information, and it's the same with the sort of solo traveling questions that people have. So that's where you would find my book, and it's on all the major retailers, Amazon. But if you go to the website to start with, it will direct you because I've got it all there set up. And you can have a look at where you can buy the book from. And I've got so it's an ebook and a paperback. So I know a lot of people like just to have their ebooks these days. So yeah, come on over. I would love to meet people there.
I love how mindful you are and just how authentic you are. That really come across in this conversation, I think. And I think you hit the nail on the head about vulnerability as well. And I love the fact that you want to create a community and just share your love of Thailand with people.
Yeah, I really do, Lisa. And you would probably see it yourself in solo travelers and just women out there just doing their thing. It's so lovely to see people uh, taking the plunge and being a bit courageous and maybe feeling really fearful, but still doing it. And then seeing other people encourage them and really want that for them. And it just has so many benefits. And a few people have asked me what I think the benefit has been for me going away and doing what I did. And I still think, so it's nearly a year since I returned. I returned July 25th last year, strangely enough, how these July 25ths all lining up.
Yeah.
But I still think I'm benefiting from and discovering what the benefits were while I was over there. I think it just carries on and continues, and it just can't be understated. I think that time by yourself, with your own thoughts, with nowhere else to escape to, and just sitting with it and seeing what bubbles up. And sometimes they're really hard feelings and it's, a bit tricky, but giving yourself that time and giving back to yourself is one of the kindest things you can do for yourself. And it benefits not only you, but everybody around you. And so I would encourage women to not feel guilty. You are deserving of this time. And be really kind to yourself and give yourself, whether it's a dream that you've always had or something you do quite regularly, I think you will benefit enormously by doing life differently, Lisa. Just mix it up a little bit.
Love it. You're so inspiring. Thank you so much, Mel. Honestly, it's just been such a delight speaking to you. And
you too, Lisa. It's just lovely to chat with you.
And I put the links under the show notes as well. And just thank you so much, Mel. And I just wish you every success with the book launch next week. And
thank you. Yeah, thank you. We'll see how we go.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a roaring success. And then for everything else that you decide to do after that as well. And you can find out more about Melanie and her book, Doing Life Differently, at doinglifedifferently.com.au. If you're looking at solo travelling in Thailand, check out the Solo Travel in Thailand destination guide on the Girl About the Globe blog. And there's also a dedicated page for the best area to stay in Phuket. I'll be back next week. In the meantime, safe travels. Thanks for listening to our Girl About the Globe podcast, making solo travel easier for you. Find everything that you need for your solo travels at girlabouttheglobe.com, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode.